Straight ahead on Oregon's News at 10, residents on the Gulf Coast brace themselves tonight as Tropical Storm Gordon makes landfall. How states are preparing for the storm. And Lyft has announced that it's coming to Eugene after Uber is expected to be here starting Thursday, when you can expect to see those glowing pink signs. Plus, major progress is being made on the Hugo Fire, what ODF says played a role in getting the flames under control. Oregon's News at 10 starts right now.
You're watching Oregon's News at 10 on Oregon's Fox.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for Oregon's News at 10. I'm Christine Goodwillie. First tonight, all eyes are on the Gulf of Mexico as Tropical Storm Gordon makes landfall west of the Alabama-Mississippi border with winds up to 70 miles per hour. One fatality is also being reported in Escambia County, Florida. Omar Jimenez is in Gulfport, Mississippi with the latest.
The Gulf Coast is on high alert as Tropical Storm Gordon makes landfall. States of emergency are in effect for Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama as dangerous storm surges, strong winds, and heavy rain systems move along the Gulf Coast.
We are not taking this storm lightly, simply because we want everybody to be safe.
A curfew went into effect Tuesday evening in Harrison County, Mississippi, which covers Biloxi and Gulfport, as harbors and vessels were ordered to evacuate due to the risk from storm surges. In Long Beach, Mississippi, people were preparing for this storm, picking up sandbags at government distribution points in order to protect their homes against flooding. And Louisiana has the National Guard on notice. 350 members will be ready to roll when given the signal. And if you plan on traveling to the Gulf Coast in the next few days, check your plans. Some airlines have warned of delays and flight cancellations. In Gulfport, Mississippi, I'm Omar Jimenez.
It's time now for a first look at that forecast. Let's hand it over to meteorologist Travis Knutson to see what's ahead. Travis, we're just hoping for a little bit of rain.
We are hoping for a little bit of rain because we're far behind in terms of the average for this time of year, or even from the beginning of the year. And there's some rain in the forecast, but it's the extended forecast. Short term, things still look pretty sunny around the region. Here's a look at the headlines for what's to come. Our Wednesday, another day filled with sunshine, a few degrees warmer than where we even were this afternoon. That said, rain is in the forecast. It'll just take a couple days before the potential for it arrives. Here's a look at the highs across the state today. Medford and Ontario making it to the 90s today. Everybody else in the 80s for the most part, a little bit cooler on the coast. Tomorrow's temperatures, as I mentioned, tack on a degree or two from where we were today. And that's about as warm as we get before we start feeling the impact of the cool down moving on through. But for our temperatures tonight, low 50s on the way. Tomorrow, warming up and then cooling down. I'll tell you when those rain showers may move on in, and my forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
The latest book on the Trump White House paints an ugly picture of the current presidency. Bob Woodward, who is reporting helped bring down President Richard Nixon, says Chief of Staff John Kelly said we're in a crazy town. Mr. Trump quickly responded, telling the Daily Caller it's just another bad book. He's had a lot of credibility problems. David Martin spoke to Woodward.
White House Chief of Staff John Kelly said of President Trump, he's an idiot. It's pointless to try to convince him of anything. He's gone off the rails. We're in crazy town. Defense Secretary James Mattis told close associates his commander-in-chief acted like and had the understanding of a fifth or sixth grader. Late today, Kelly and Mattis denied the comments, but the book is filled with derogatory descriptions of the president by senior advisors. Woodward's devastating account is called Fear, Trump in the White House. It hasn't been published yet, but the White House says it's nothing more than fabricated stories told to make the president look bad. Woodward tried, but was not granted an interview with the president. In a brief phone conversation last month, Woodward warned him what was coming.
It's a tough look at the world and your administration and you.
Right. Well, I assume that means it's going to be a negative book.
In Woodward's telling, the president's aides fear not what he might do to them, but what he might do to the country. 7 months into the administration, at a meeting in the Pentagon, Defense Secretary Mattis tried to convince the president of the value of military alliances and free trade agreements. But the president declared, this is all BS. And, according to Woodward, one of the president's attorneys, John Dowd, felt he would commit perjury if interviewed by special counsel Robert Mueller. Dowd, who has since resigned, believed the president had nothing to hide, but was incapable of giving simple, factual answers. Don't testify, Dowd warned. It's either that or an orange jumpsuit.
We've been trying to come to Eugene for quite a long time, and now we're there. So we're happy to launch tomorrow.
Lyft announcing tonight they're kicking off ride-sharing services tomorrow morning in Eugene. They'll be launching one day ahead of Uber, who's slated to launch on Thursday. Their partnership with the University of Oregon is being highlighted in tomorrow's kickoff. The services begin at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Puddles the Duck will take the first ride from the Eugene Hilton to Autzen Stadium after meeting with new drivers and community members in the morning. Todd Kelsey, Lyft's Pacific Northwest General Manager, says tomorrow's launch date comes as students are preparing to return to school in a few weeks.
I'm a father of two kids that are in college, and it's so important to me to know that they're going to college, that they're in towns that have rideshare, because they make decisions based on that availability, and they rely on that.
Kelsey says they're offering a special promotion to mark the occasion. Both new and existing users can get $5 off 3 rides using the code LIFTHUGE. Oregon Department of Forestry says crews are continuing to make excellent progress on containing the Hugo Fire. Now, this fire started just about 48 hours ago, and crews are already at 45% containment. ODF says by this evening, they're expecting to be pushing 50 to 60%. So far, the fire has burned about 200 acres. Over the past 24 hours, ODF says weather was working against crews. That includes wind gusts reaching up to 30 miles per hour on ridge tops, plus warm temperatures. But starting tonight, conditions are expected to work in their favor.
Overnight, our humidity recoveries is really high, which means that brings our fire activity very low. And at this point, it's really just finding those hot spots, extinguishing the hot spots to make sure there are no more flare-ups.
Cano says when it comes to this fire, there's currently no imminent danger to the public right now. She says an efficient multi-agency response played a huge role in getting these flames under control so quickly. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. There are still evacuation orders in place. Lane County fire crews returned home this evening after battling the Hugo Fire. They arrived at the Goshen Fire Station around 6 o'clock. While at the fire, firefighters searched for victims, set up triage, and assessed damage from the wildfire. This is the 9th time a Lane County task force has been sent to help communities in Oregon affected by wildfires this year. And animal evacuations are being held at the Josephine County Fairgrounds. The center says it was busy Sunday night, but are clearing out now. They received cats, dogs, and even horses. The Hobby Field Airport in Cresswell will get $222,000 in grants for renovation. The small airport in Cresswell is pretty busy. It's mostly used for small businesses, flight school, and hobbyists. After almost 50 years, 3 taxi lanes will be getting some much needed work done. 121 small planes are based at the airport. Years of planes using the taxi lanes has taken a toll on the pavement, leaving it with potholes and rubble that can be a hazard for pilots.
It's at this point now where you can't continue to patch. It's like a pothole in the street. You can patch it and you keep patching it and it just keeps getting bigger and it just keeps getting weaker. And that's what we have to do, is we have to preserve this taxi lane for the airport users.
Construction is expected to start this spring. Humboldt says they hope to get additional grants to do more work for the taxiway and runway in 2022. New classes are popping up around Oregon in an effort to increase graduation rates and prepare students for careers. It's all part of a hands-on learning experience through career and technical education, or CTE classes. The courses give students real-world skills and can be used for free college credit. Governor Brown says CTE classes will help students fill job openings around Oregon.
The biggest challenge facing these employers is that they need skilled and qualified workforce. And so it's critically important that we provide hands-on learning for students in high schools.
Governor Kate Brown also says about 86% of students in CTE classes graduate. That's up from Oregon's current graduation rate of 77%. Coming up on Oregon's News at 10, a South Coast school district boosts access to free lunches. Why officials say it needed to be done after weather with Travis Knutson.
It's been dry for a little while across western Oregon, specifically in Eugene, and we might even break a record here shortly for the longest stretch of time without any rain. You might be thinking, well, Travis, didn't it just rain last Thursday? And it did, but not at the Eugene airport technically. Roseburg and Coos Bay last Thursday saw a little bit of some rainfall with 8 days since the last amount of moisture, but at the Eugene airport, they didn't report a measurable amount of rain. It did rain, but it was so little there was nothing to report in the little cup they put outside. So technically that counts as a day without rain, leaving Eugene at 78 days since we last saw our moisture. That was June 17th. The record, the longest stretch we've ever seen, 83 days set in 1998. And if we do not get any rain this weekend, which we might not, we'll tie and potentially surpass that record. So I'm crossing my fingers. That's not the best record. Hopefully we don't tie it or set a new one. Outside right now in the 60s for the Willamette Valley. Roseburg at 69, still 72 down in Medford on the coast, facing some 50s there. Winds have backed off quite a bit from some of the gustier conditions we saw earlier today. Still seeing some 13-mile-an-hour winds around the North Bend area, but calm in Eugene as well as Roseburg. Winds tomorrow won't be quite so gusty as they were this afternoon and yesterday afternoon. Satellite and radar here across Oregon and Washington, pretty quiet all around, but you'll notice looking out to the west, we have some clouds out here. These clouds are a sign of some change in the air that's headed our way. There's a storm system out across the Pacific Ocean. It's rolling its way basically into Washington and will cool things down, bring the clouds and maybe some rain by the weekend. Ahead of it though, tomorrow specifically, we still have some warm air pushing in from the south. Wednesday's the warmest day on the 7-day forecast. Getting into Thursday, Friday, and the weekend, we'll start to feel the cooling effects of the storm, the clouds as well, and maybe a little bit of rain depending on exactly where that storm hits the Pacific Northwest. But here's a short term overnight tonight at our model forecast, playing this until tomorrow morning, stopping at 8 a.m. Few clouds are possible on the coast tomorrow, the marine layer making an appearance. That marine layer won't be a big deal, so those on the coast, if there's some fog to start the day tomorrow, it burns off fairly quickly. Sunshine for the majority of our Wednesday. Thursday, we'll start to see a few extra clouds and probably cloudy across western Oregon by the time we hit Friday. Now, for the mountains, mid-80s on the way. Pretty nice day all around. Still a little breezy at those higher elevations in the mountains. Central Oregon, warm as well. 84 degrees in Bend, Redmond at about 88 degrees for our Wednesday. The Willamette Valley, still sunny. A warm day all around. Mid-80s on the way. I do not think anybody will hit 90 in the Willamette Valley, but a couple spots we'll get close, make a run at it. Here's a 7-day forecast for the Eugene-Springfield area. We start to cool down on Thursday, clouds on Friday, maybe a raindrop or two Saturday, maybe a couple raindrops early next week. The odds still fairly low at this point, but the opportunity does exist. For Central Oregon, mid-60s for those daytime highs tomorrow, a little bit cooler in Florence, some clouds sticking around for part of the morning, upper 50s there. The South Coast, clearing skies, a little bit of fog possible in the morning hours, but as I mentioned, it clears out very quickly, and for the most part, sunshine will dominate the coast tomorrow. Heading into the weekend, rain chances are possible. Those to the north stand a much better chance for those to the south. The Umpqua Valley, a bit toasty, blue skies on the way, highs in the upper 80s and lower 90s. 7-day forecast here, rain for the weekend possibly, but at this point, it's still not a certainty. We'll be right back.
With the new school year comes some changes for students in Coos Bay. As Lauren Negretti reports, one of those changes is in the cafeteria.
School is back in session for these Blossom Gulch elementary students. This year, for the first time, the school's pizza and fresh fruit are free for everyone.
One less thing to remember to pay your lunch bill, because it's easy to let that go. This morning on our first day of school, we had lots of kids with cash coming in to pay for their lunches, and their parents got to take that home with them and not have to pay.
At roughly $2 per lunch, parents are saving as much as $300. The federally funded program is at all Coos Bay schools for students in kindergarten through 7th grade. It's made lunchtime faster by getting rid of the 6-digit PIN number, reducing wait times in line, and the stigma of getting a free or reduced price lunch.
It's going to provide our families with an option to have a nutritious lunch. We have students coming to school who are hungry. You're hungry, you're not thinking, you're not learning.
This is the district's first time applying for the program.
Having a hardship with paying for meals, paying for lunches. We've seen an increase in that. We've seen an increase in poverty in our school district. It's good for kids. It's good for our families.
The goal is to keep kids fed and focused in the classroom. Reporting in Coos Bay, I'm Lauren Negretti.
Next on Oregon's News, could bedtime be the key to success in school? What state wants districts to give students more sleep? That's after the break. California's governor has until the end of the month to decide if he will sign a bill that would require middle and high schools in the state to start no earlier than 8:30 a.m. Now, the American Academy of Pediatrics has been pushing for years for the 8:30 a.m. or later start time in U.S. schools. They want to fight what it calls a sleepiness epidemic. Danielle Nottingham reports.
More than 3 million students in California could soon get some extra shut-eye if California's school start time bill gets signed into law. It would require middle and high schools in the state to start no earlier than 8:30 a.m., giving students more time to sleep. According to the CDC, 60% of middle schoolers and 70% of high schoolers do not get the recommended amount of sleep per night, and that could negatively affect their health and learning.
It can cause poor academic performance, drowsy driving, depression, loneliness, social isolation, addictive behaviors, and weight gain, obesity, and hypertension.
The CDC says children ages 6 through 12 need between 9 and 12 hours of sleep a night, and teenagers need 8 to 10 hours. Sleep experts say children's brains are wired differently, so simply telling them to go to bed earlier is not the solution.
Melatonin gets released later in children, and also the pressure to fall asleep is less, so it's harder for them to fall asleep at night.
The CDC says to improve your children's sleep, make sure they consistently go to bed and wake up at the same time, even on weekends. Keep bedrooms at a cool 65 to 70 degrees, impose a media and electronics curfew, and dim the lighting.
Coming up on Oregon's News, it's certainly the most famous painting in the world. But could the Mona Lisa be hiding a disease in plain sight? That's after the break. Finally tonight, Dr. Mandeep Mehra knows a thing or two about diagnosing sick people. And in his opinion, Lisa Gherardini, aka Mona Lisa, was not well when she first sat for this portrait in 1503. Dr. Mehra points to many features in Da Vinci's painting that are critical to his diagnosis. In addition to the loss of eyebrows, the doctor reveals a receding hairline, a lesion near her left eye, a puffy neck, and swollen hands, all suggesting to the doctor of a systemic physical ailment. This doctor also looked at lifestyles, dietary patterns, as well as other painted portraits of the time period that depict similar signs of a hidden disease. Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. If you looked at my drawings, you would think the people are very ill. Very ill. They're not very good drawings.
Very skinny. Are they stick figures?
They're stick figures, yeah.
Okay, understood. Well, 30 Minutes of Sports is coming up. Have a good night.